to the Montana Sportscast podcast. Bob Ritterod, Paul Padisco will be joining us shortly here, but we have a special guest, Peter Dreyer, the athletic director at Arizona Christian. They will be joining the Frontier Conference next year in football. And Peter, welcome, and not only to the podcast, but to the Frontier Conference.
Hey, Bob, thank you so much for inviting me on today. Excited to be here, excited to be joining the Frontier Conference in football this coming year. Really looking forward to it.
Peter, talk a little bit about did you guys approach the Frontier about coming on or aboard, or did they reach out to you? Just kind of give us a little background to how all that happened.
Sure, absolutely. Yeah, it was a little bit of both, I would say, but there's been, us being in the West, and that's always been a thing or an option, I guess, is to consider the Frontier Conference. Now we're a little bit removed from it, being further south, but we did have a conversation about it at some point. I can't even remember when, but just kind of floated the idea out there, and we've been part of the Sooner Conference, and that's been a great home to us for a long time. But as the Sooner Conference started to grow a little bit further east and go some of that direction, it got us thinking a little bit more about being more in the West, and then our desire as well to see our football in the NAI grow out west, and the feeling like that maybe that could happen in a better way if we were better connected with schools out west. And we had a lot of respect for the Frontier, and we have certainly seen what they've been able to do over the years in football and how competitive it is. And so we had a desire to be part of that. And so through those conversations, it kind of worked out to where they were looking to or interested in us jumping in, and we were interested in being part of it. So it all worked out, and we're grateful for that. But yeah, we both kind of had some initial contact with each other, and some of it goes back, a handful of years just in common relationships in the NAI and whatnot. But yeah, it worked out for everybody.
And Peter, Paul's joined us there. Well, how you doing, Paul?
I'm running all over heck, but I'm good, guys. How are you?
We're good, but
Thanks,
Peter, just a little history on Paul. He's been in Disneyland for a while, so we got to give him a break. He's trying to get caught back up.
Yeah, that work thing just gets in the way.
A great place to go, Disney. Great place.
Yeah, Peter, we appreciate your time, man. Obviously Bob got you started, and you talking history wise, with us, we both have long histories with the Frontier Conference, and I'm looking at 26 years of doing broadcasting in the Frontier Conference, and this was one of the first bits of news that I think honestly shook me. This was one of those where I wasn't expecting to hear anything, and this one felt like it kind of came out of left field, and I feel like that was one of those big rumbles that happened across the conference from top to bottom. This was kind of an earth-shattering one for most people, I think.
Yeah, well, we'll take that as a good thing, certainly. And for us, we were real excited, and the conversations started a ways back, and so by the time it came out, it was for us it was like, okay, this is what has been in the works for a while, so we're good. But certainly understand that for those picking it up for the first time, it would be a little bit of a shock. But we're NAI football out here in the Southwest, it's we're not closely connected, and so anywhere that we fit in, I think anyone that sees it would maybe scratch their head a little bit, but that's just kind of the nature of where we're at here in Arizona, and being connected with the schools in the Frontier now. We're real excited. We know that there's a gap between us a little bit geographically, and but at the same time, we've been able to see and we have the Frontier schools come down, play basketball, and in many cases wrestling and different things that happen down here. So we've got a history of competing against schools in the Frontier, just not formally, through a specific conference setup. And so we're real excited about it, and certainly it's a new look, right? We're different in terms of where we come from and all of that compared to what has happened in the Frontier perhaps in the past. And so hopefully that's a good thing. And some of the uniquenesses that Arizona Christian can offer the conference hopefully adds a lot of value. The opportunity, as we talked at the beginning, to come down to Arizona perhaps in late October and November isn't a bad thing. We also understand that, many schools have a good bit of alumni perhaps that make their way down into the Phoenix area. We had a school that we hosted in basketball that had a big alumni event down here when they came out to play us. And so we know that those are added value things and perhaps even some recruitment opportunities, who knows? And so so we think it's a great thing. And we know that we're a little bit of an outsider in that regard, but we feel like we add a lot of value. And at the same time, we'll be competitive and hope to be competitive and strengthen the conference.
I think a lot of people would be surprised after I did my homework and looking at the conference that you hold otherwise and the mileage you put in. I think people would be surprised that how close the mileage is to us. When you start talking about trips to Louisiana, trips to Arkansas, you're looking at 12 to 1,500 miles. Most of your trips into Texas are all in the 700 to 900 mile range. When we're talking a little over 1,000 miles to basically everybody in the Frontier, you as a program, football and everything else, put in some significant miles when you're dealing with the South. And I think that's one of those that a lot of people might overlook in your travel schedule as it already is.
Yes, that's right. And so as we evaluated it, we looked at it across the board and it's not that much different. But to someone maybe seeing it for the first time and say, why in the world would you want to travel that far in conference? And say, well, we're already doing it.
Yeah.
And as the Sooner Conference adds, good schools, it just happens to be a lot further away from us. And that's okay. But for us to, just redirect our travel north instead of east, it's not a huge significant adjustment from a travel perspective for us. And so that does help, but for those that are used to traveling within conference, more locally, it can look a little strange for sure.
I guess, go ahead, Bob.
Go ahead. I was looking at your webpage there, Peter, and you're playing in like several different conferences now. I see one similar one. You're in the Cascade Conference with some sports, Pacific Coast, it looks like, the GSAC. Talk a little bit about the teams that you have playing in conferences and that. What is your main conference, I guess, at this point now?
Yes, the GSAC's our main conference, the Golden State Athletic Conference. And so we joined that, I don't know, maybe about 10 years ago or so. And so that's our primary conference where we compete with the majority of our sports. And so for some sports, however, the GSAC doesn't offer the sport. And so the Cascade Conference for wrestling has been a great home for our wrestling program. And so we see some of the Frontier schools in that conference. And so that's been where, and Embry-Riddle, who's nearby in Arizona, is also part of that conference. And so we do have another Arizona connection there. Swim, we wrestle through we swim through the NAIA, but our conferences don't support a conference championship. And so we're part of a secondary affiliation through the PCSC there. That's been a great home for us. That gives us somewhat of like a conference championship opportunity. And then certainly through with football, the Golden State Athletic Conference doesn't offer football. And so our home had been in the Sooner Conference, the CSFL originally, and then the Sooner Conference eventually. And that's allowed our teams to be able to compete and have a home, to be able to have a schedule, to be recognized for Players of the Week and Players of the Year, those kinds of things, and be ranked and be part of the standings. And so, yeah, that's part of what we've had to do as our athletic department has grown. Some of the sports that we've added aren't offered within our main conference affiliation. So we've tried to find a reasonable way to do that in a way that allows our athletes to be successful, to be recognized, and to be able to be competitive and a pathway to win a championship.
And honestly, being able to navigate those for all the different sports probably helped open the door for the idea of the Frontier Conference in football. You know, you being successful in those others and making sure that those sports are being taken care of, your athletes are being treated right and enjoying the sports they are, probably does help when you start to kind of look at the Frontier Conference for football.
Yes, yes, absolutely. I'll say, you know, in many things, the first time that you have to navigate it and figure it out, it can be a little uncertain. You know, being a part of a main conference and then also being a part of another conference. Do we want to do that? And we've had to do it enough times to where we understand the landscape of it. And again, we know the value of the Frontier Conference and the quality of the Frontier Conference, and so it's attractive, certainly for me, as you know, someone that now has the opportunity to learn from other athletic directors and other athletic departments and how they do things. And so that's a great thing for our coaches that get to engage with other coaches and learn from them. And so it's a neat opportunity. And like you said, the student athlete experience and the ability to be recognized and to be part of a group of schools, to be, you know, a first team All-American or all-conference player, whatever that looks like. Those kinds of things are important. And we want the students to feel valued and to have the opportunity to be recognized in a conference. And the Sooners done that, and certainly the Frontier does. And the Frontier has produced a number of national championships. And so that's a big piece of it too, having a pathway to get into the playoffs and to be considered for a national championship. And so that's been a thing that we've seen, you know, in the Frontier, that they've been successful in that in the past. And so we want our football team and all of our sports, but football specifically in this conversation, we want them to give them an opportunity to pursue a national championship. And we've had some success getting into the playoffs to date, and know that as we continue in the Frontier, we'll have to continue to play well and be competitive, so that if we can make it out through the Frontier, that we have a shot at a national championship. And that's a cool thing for our players.
Well, give us an idea, in your opinion, what did the Firestorm bring to the Frontier? You know, it's in your kind of the way you look at it, as the playoffs loom for the Firestorm here this weekend. What do you bring to the Frontier Conference moving forward, and what can people expect?
Yeah, good question. Well, you know, Arizona Christian University is, you know, a private Christian institution, and biblical worldview is a big piece of what we do. And so one of the things I think that the Firestorm bring is a passion to compete, but to do it the right way. And so doesn't mean that we always get it right. Oftentimes there's instances where we get it wrong, but it gives our coaches an opportunity to come alongside our players and to help them navigate becoming an adult and being a positive contributing member to society. And so we want to show up and compete and do it the right way, with integrity and with character and with hard work. And we want to represent our institution, which ultimately represents Christ in what we do. And so that's one thing, certainly, that's very important to us. We want to compete well. You know, the style of play, we like to play fast. We like to throw the ball and do those kinds of things. And so an attractive style of play, I think, we like to score points. Certainly, I think everyone does, but we like to play fast and put the ball in the air. And so perhaps a unique style and something maybe a little bit different than some of the others. And so bring in a team that competes the right way, that enjoys it, that plays a unique style of football, I think is going to be a good thing in the Frontier. And then, you know, our location and being able to come down this way and compete in new territory. And I think for some of the teams, you know, the ability to be down here and have a presence, whether that's for recruitment or for the alumni base or whatever that looks like, I think is something that for some of them may be an attractive thing as well.
Peter, I was doing a little research, not a lot, but 22 sports. Was that correct that you guys have?
Yes, that sounds about right.
Yeah. How many student athletes do you have, and what percentage is it of your student population?
Sure. Yes. Well, we have, so I say 22 sports because we have a variety of sport offerings. So we do offer some club sport opportunities for our students. And in some of our sports, like baseball, we'll have, a club team to go alongside that team that competes against other local club teams, in addition to our varsity team. So for our varsity teams, we've got probably about 350 or so student athletes that compete in our varsity programs. And then perhaps another 300 plus or so that participate in the club level or non-NAIA sport. And so we have a healthy group of participating student athletes on campus. For our varsity sport, it's about 35% of our population. And then for all of our participating student athletes, whether that's club, whether that's varsity and anything and everything in between, it's certainly a little bit higher percentage. But we like to try to get as many students involved in as many things. Students that are engaged in multiple areas on campus, whether that's, leading Bible studies, part of the music program here, student leadership opportunities, campus events, and everything in between, trying to get them plugged into whether that's intramurals, club sport, varsity sport, X, Y, and Z. And the more that we can do that, the better. And so many of our students participate in athletics, and whether that's at the varsity level or the club level, or whatever offerings we have, we feel like that's a good thing. So a very engaged campus community.
You'll enter into the Frontier Conference and you bring with you obviously a lot of change on your part, but a lot of change on our side as well. As you'll enter as the ninth team in the Frontier Conference, we will do away with playing anybody more than once, as far as conference games go. And that will help the landscape of the Frontier in a big way, where, we're not beating up on each other and dropping teams out of the rankings and hurting in that respect, but also one step closer to a possible, 10-team conference somewhere down the line where we might get 2 automatic bids. Do those kind of things factor into the decision of joining the Frontier Conference, where, it 8 or 9 teams, obviously getting into the playoffs out of the Frontier is not easy. But if we get up to that 10 and we get 2 automatic bids, that certainly changes the landscape a little bit.
Yes. Yeah. That's a thing that I know is talked about. For us, I wouldn't say that was a motivating factor. I think beyond, more so than that, just being part of a conference that's strengthened, and that's growing, and is out west among other potential schools that may also contribute sometime down the road to being part of the conference. However that plays out, who knows? But that is a great thing to have more schools to be able to get more bids into the playoffs is a key thing. But for us, it was much more than that. It was, the ability to be among the schools in the Frontier and the quality that's there, to be part of what's going on in the West for NAI football, was very important. And for the future of its growth, it was very important. Knowing the quality of it historically and wanting to contribute towards the quality of it going forward. And so, but there's other factors like the one that you just said with the bids that doesn't hurt and that helps. And I think that may have been an attractive thing for us to join from their perspective, certainly. But for us, it was a little bit bigger than that. But it's not a bad thing.
What, as an AD, what are you looking forward to? What are you excited about?
Well, I'll tell you, I'm looking forward to looking forward to learning from the others in the conference. I've had the opportunity to visit with a handful of them already. I have a lot of respect for them, and every place does things a little bit differently and for good reasons. And so I'm looking forward to learning from my peers and others in the conference. Looking forward for our student athletes. From a school perspective, the student athlete experience to be able to provide something that's new for them, to go to new places, to be challenged, to go into different environments and to be put to the test, competitively is a great thing. And so, as an institution, we'll learn a lot from schools in the conference and how they do game day and how they prepare and how they put their department together and their football programs together. And so, learning from that perspective is great. But our student athletes and giving them a great experience, a lot of this will be new, and our experience in the Sooner has been very good, and we're grateful for that. And so going into a new environment, gives something fresh for our student athletes. It will be challenging, and so we want to be challenged, and so that's a great thing. We want to show our student athletes how we enter into new challenges and what we have to do to overcome and to prepare and to execute. And so those are important things that I'm looking forward to bringing our student athletes into those environments and to be able to try to get better and to improve our program. And so the challenge of competitiveness is attractive, and the opportunity to learn from our peers, from other programs, is also very attractive. And then the opportunity potentially to grow NAI football out west is also a very attractive thing, that they can see that, we're in Arizona and there's schools in Montana and Oregon and Idaho. And perhaps there's more out there that just haven't been able to get things going football wise on this side of the country, but maybe they will. And that could lead to some significant things in the future. But a lot to look forward to, and traveling up there and seeing it firsthand is also something I'm looking forward to go to some of these schools and to be on their campuses, and which I haven't been before. So that's an attractive thing. Certainly at the right time of year, of course. But,
of course, that's important.
Not right now, for sure.
Yeah, that's right. Maybe that window's passed for this year. So we'll look forward to next year, I guess.
Yeah, there's we up here are continually talking about the idea of, okay, we'll all go down there October, November, but from your perspective, you definitely want to play those early August games up here because it's going to be nice.
Yes, yeah, that's right. Yeah, looking forward to that very much.
Yeah, that idea of seeing, just how other people do it is such a big part of what we do. And with when Eastern Oregon came in, and College of Idaho and Southern Oregon, it brings such a breath of vitality and just a different perspective, a different viewpoint, and a different way to play the game of football. I think it makes us all better. I mean, there is no downside to it when you boil it right down to brass tacks. I mean, it's all football. We have a tremendous conference that has great following, and people just love it. It's all going to be positive when this gets sorted out and we get it rolling next year.
Yeah, that's right. We were so attracted to that side of it, and learning more and more about the Frontier and the following from each of these schools is a great thing. And our program's still very young. We started the program. This is our 9th season, so time flies now that I'm thinking of it and saying it out loud. But our program is still very young, and we've got a base of alumni from our football program that's just started graduating 4, 5, 6 years ago from that first class that came through. And so seeing the fan base and the alumni bases of some of these schools and the following and how they've cultivated that and how they go about that is certainly very attractive to us as we try to do that better and better with our young program. So very much looking forward to all of those things.
Well, and congratulations on that. The idea that you're under a decade old as far as football goes, and we're talking playoffs, which we all know getting into the playoffs at the NAIA level is a heck of a fight. And the idea of the success you have had, you're bringing a heck of a product into the Frontier Conference, and something for us to look forward to.
Yes, yeah, absolutely. I'm excited for the team. I know how hard it is to get to this point in the playoffs, and so very grateful that we've got the opportunity to do it. Excited for Coach Bowen and the guys that are making the plans and arrangements and game planning for the game at the end of this week. And so hope to continue that kind of play, obviously, through the playoffs, and then going forward and continuing to build year after year. Try to get a little bit better every year, and knowing that we'll see some different looks next year, and teams that we don't have historical game footage to go back and review. It'll be a lot of new teams playing them for the first time, different styles of play, different philosophies of coaching. So it'll put us to the test for sure, but it will be a lot of fun.
If you were to if you had to put your thumb on what style of play, if you called the Sooner Conference, what would you think is its bread and butter? Like, what's the thing that you can always count on as far as the Sooner Conference for football goes?
Oh, that's a great question. And I don't know that I'm the guy to give you good football analysis on that. I tell you that I've been so impressed with, I've been at the games here at home. I haven't traveled to many on the road, but a lot of balls get thrown in the air, and so it's very fast paced. It's quick, and I'm as it relates to football, I know enough to be dangerous, but I've been impressed with a lot of the quarterbacks in this league, the ability to run and the ability to throw. We've seen a handful of them come through, and they're top notch. And so it's a good league, and they like to play fast, from what I could tell. They like to sling it, but their quarterback's very mobile, and they can run as well. And so certainly that's been our MO a little bit. And so the Sooner Conference overall tends to be that way. Warmer weather, ability to throw a little bit better, maybe. And so yeah, it's a good league, and it's been a lot of fun. Putting up a lot of points, and other teams putting up a lot of points too. So it makes for attractive football.
Well, I think we'll kind of wrap you up here, Peter, unless Paul's got a lot more, but I'm going to consider you part of the Frontier Conference this year too, just so we can say we got 2 teams in.
All right. Well, that's fair.
I'll second that.
Awesome. Well, I appreciate it, guys. Thanks for allowing me to come on. Thanks for your interest in Arizona Christian University, and look forward to staying connected with you as we move ahead.
Yeah, certainly look forward to talking to you, through Hoop and as we get ready to push into next fall, man.
Yeah, appreciate it, guys. Thank you so much.
All right, take care.
Thank you, Peter.
Hey.
Mr. Panisco, how are we doing today?
Sure. I'm running. I apologize. I felt bad joining late, but certainly good to hear from Peter, and that's exciting. I don't know. Were you expecting anything different as far as when you ask as far as the style of play? That's certainly what I would expect is really good athletes, really good speed, and a lot of reps and a lot of snaps. And it almost feels like we're looking at Southern Oregon coming into the conference again. That those first several years of trying to deal with Southern and how fast they were. That's exciting. I mean, that makes our conference better.
Yeah, it does. And and the more that talking with Peter there, it kind of just entices me and makes me feel good that maybe we're possibly going to get a couple more teams join us as far as football goes. Hopefully, I think it'd be great. It just beating ourselves up, and I'm going to throw a little thing up here on the screen, Paul, about the Frontier. Well, let's put the standings up there to start with, the Frontier final standings, and we'll look at them. I don't know. I think one of us called Carroll and one of us called College of Idaho to win that game, but I won't mention anything. I want to be honest with you. I did switch my rowboat last week, and I went with College of Idaho last week on the show, and I guess that I was wrong.
And I don't think I even called to remind you of that either. I think I let you go. Carroll's playing good football, and we know what it takes. And even here, you go back to the preseason poll, and Western was the team that everybody was looking up at, and that Western team at 6-4 is an incredibly good team, a good football team. And you think about it, and Dickinson goes in as a 14 seed. You remember Western went to Dickinson and throttled them at their place. That I think again that just shows what this conference is. That Western team sitting at 6-4 in conference, 7-4 overall, were picked to win this conference. And maybe if we rolled the dice again, they could easily enough. I mean, you never know what happens in these conference games every year.
Yeah, and they struggled towards the middle of the season. They're kind of seemed to get things straightened out after that last bye week. That was really the changing point, I think, for Coach Norris and the Western team. Was that bye week? They just after that they've really played good football.
And I think Carroll's the same on that same token. I think they got better every week, as most every team did. But I think Carroll was real young again, and they started to figure out who they were late, and they're unfortunately the only team representing the Frontier Conference moving forward.
And there, Paul, I threw up basically the bracket for the playoffs. Arizona Christian, of course, going to Morningside, as Peter said, they're the number one team in the nation. So be it. You're still in the playoffs.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, you made it in. Going into the weekend, I don't know. I harbored a hope that C of I would get a possible bid, but I would have put the odds at that real short. I thought Carroll was going to be our only going in. I obviously, as a Tech guy, my heart wanted to hope that there was a chance they were getting in, but you knew that wasn't going to happen. College of Idaho was the only one that really had a shot, and boy, you have to feel it for them where they dominate through the first part of the season. They lose two at the end of the year, and they're watching the playoffs like the rest of us.
And we said it all along that Western is going to be the game changer when it's all said and done, and they were. I mean, they played really good football, and like you say, other than one or two games there, they'd have been right there in the mix.
Yeah. Yep.
But I think the scenario, the way it played out, was the only way we would ever had a chance to get two teams in. If College of Idaho would have, and I never saw any final rankings. I don't know, maybe nobody put them out. Maybe they're ashamed to or something. But where did College of Idaho end up ranked at the final poll? I didn't see that. Maybe there is.
Off the top of my head, I don't remember either. Let me see if I can dig it out while we're chatting here. But I think, I want to say Carroll finished right around where they go into the playoffs at 15 or 16. And I believe C of I was just behind them, but
well, they must
see
have
if
been,
I can dig it out here real quick.
20,
Sorry.
Must have been in the 20s, I would say.
And with only 4 at-large bids, there's not a whole lot you can do. You've just got to win. That's what it boils down to.
Yeah, I think if College of Idaho wouldn't have lost to Western, and that only loss being to Carroll, I think then I think that would have been our only opportunity to get two teams in.
All right. So as it stands here, Carroll College finished 16, College of Idaho finished 18, Montana Tech finished 24.
Okay.
So that was the final top 25. So again, Carroll College at 16, winning the conference because they were in the top 20, College of Idaho at 18. So then College of Idaho, like I say, there's only 4 at-large bids, so they had to look above them and see who else was ranked higher that did not win their conference. And the chances of that happening are going to be really thin.
Yeah.
And that said, Arizona Christian, obviously, who we were just talking about, finished number 20 in the final poll. Yeah. So and they'll go into the playoffs.
And they played really well first half of the season. They kind of struggled the second half of the season too, and we all know the injury situations, how that can affect teams.
Yep.
And they had a really good first half of their season and dropped a couple of big games at the end there.
Yeah, look at the injury situation we had in conference here. You look at the key injuries that were taken away. You're obviously, with in the Rocky halo. What happens if Nathan Dick's healthy all year? I still think he is the most electric player in the conference, top to bottom. And if you put Nathan Dick at quarterback for an entire season for Rocky, I think that final number gets thrown out the window.
Yeah, it definitely would have been different. I'm going to agree with you there. Paul, let's jump on a little kind of discouraging news to me. Charlie Hall in Southern Oregon resigning from his position there. He took over. He was very successful at the high school level there. Done a great job, I think. Just a great person to talk to. I've talked to him a few times, and a great person. But you don't know all the ins and outs of everything. But I'm sorry to see Charlie go.
Yeah, I am too. I thought he did a great job, and at times they struggled, but well, guess what? It's the Frontier Conference. That's the lay of the land. I think they've had a great run under him, and yeah, I'm with you. I was really bummed to see that. I thought that's heartbreaking news to a degree because he was a great coach and certainly a great part of this conference. And um, yeah, we'll see where that goes now.
The coaching carousel starts in the Frontier. I really don't see anybody else going or coming in the Frontier unless somebody would move up to a better job
Yeah,
per se. But as far as coaching positions go, I think we got a great bunch of coaches in the Frontier Conference,
yeah.
and I hope they stay. To be honest with you, everybody, it's just it's great competition, and but I really don't see any changes coming down the pike.
I know, and yeah, the same. You look at the quality of character we have as far as coaches go. I think we are. I think we're really in spades. I think our coaches right now are at a really high level, um, and I think that Southern job will be a real shiny brass ring. So
Yeah,
that always intrigues me too. Is who goes after it? Who are the names that are going to be out there? Because there are always going to be names that are going to surprise you. And that we've seen that year in year out with any coaching changes in the Frontier. That's a big job. That's a great university. They're really well supported. Obviously, they have a national title. They have a national runner up, I think, as well. And yeah, that's a pretty shiny ring over there. I'll be interested to see how that transpires as far as the hiring process goes.
yeah, it'll be interesting because I stayed right at home when they hired Charlie. I think he actually was a high school coach there in town, so uh, we'll see if they stay local or if they try to bring in somebody on a national search.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if you see a West Coast coordinator for a D1 program. If you see
Yeah.
whether it's a quarterback coach or an OC or a DC from whenever, whether it's FCS or FBS. I think you could see some names that might surprise you putting in for that job.
Yeah. Paul, I said I was going to pull up that how many seniors and all that good stuff we have for our teams.
Okay.
So I did here, and here's the I kind of threw the red shirt seniors and the graduate students all in one category there, the seniors, the juniors, and so on and so forth. But just the numbers at the end there, you know, everybody's pretty equal till you get to Northern,
Yeah.
down with only 60 total kids on their roster. And the one that surprised me, and I did this before I saw the news on Charlie Hall, but you know, Southern Oregon only having 98 kids in their program.
Yeah. Yeah, that seems certainly low, because it always feels like, doesn't it feel like we normally hover in that 110 to 120 range normally?
Well, I think that's kind of what, pretty much everybody shoots for,
Yeah.
and I think that's kind of fits from scholarship numbers and all that stuff. I think that's just kind of the 125 marks, kind of a magic number. Uh, but I was really surprised and we talked about how young we are, and you take all the teams together, just what 108 seniors that are going to be gone, and some of those seniors may not be gone.
I was going to say there's an awful lot that are probably going to exercise their option to come back with that COVID year.
Yeah,
It still throws these rosters into disarray and even recruiting to an awful big point to coaches where, who's coming back, what are they going to have available next year? That is still, we're still seeing shockwaves from the COVID years, even this year, and we will next year.
next year too. Yeah, yeah, that's going to be interesting to see because I agree with you. I think there's going to be some pretty good players in the conference come back for another year.
Yes. Yeah, I think you're going to see some real talent strolling back next year, and this conference is only going to get tougher.
Yeah, yeah, and you look down towards the end of the graph there, and the freshmen. What do you think? Let's just start with Carroll on top there. 41 freshmen on their roster. What do you think the percentage of that 41 is going to be there next year?
I
What are your
you know I,
thoughts?
I would say I think you're looking at you're probably 70, 80% return, because a lot of, remember that roster, they play a lot of freshmen.
Yeah.
So I think you're probably still looking at a pretty high return. It's interesting looking at, those high numbers in freshmen. And it always feels like we're pretty lucky if we get to the end of a tenure where you have 24 or 26 seniors. So that's hard. I mean, we have to remember these are student athletes, and that student part is first, and
Yeah.
college is hard. Getting through classes with practices, with games, with family, and with girlfriends, and everything else that gets thrown in. Remember, we're dealing with teenage people for the most part. Um, that's hard. There's a lot of pressure on them, and you always just hope they're able to stick through it. To fight through it, and to persist, and to get through that senior day.
Yeah, it's I was kind of surprised, at the number of kids that will be seniors and redshirt seniors and grad students.
Yeah.
It will be interesting to see. And I am going to keep track and see just what the retention is on
Yeah.
that class. And like you say, we have one more year after this year that's going to be affected by that COVID thing. And I think the back end of that, where we see a lot of those freshmen um, on these rosters, and we do pretty much on every roster, is that's kind of a result of that COVID thing, as these coaches are smart enough to realize that, man, we could lose a bunch of kids next year.
Yeah. Yep.
It's we
Agreed.
might lose, if you got 12 seniors, you might lose 8 of them this year, but next year you might lose 12 of them.
Yeah. Yeah. Those numbers are going to start going up.
Yeah,
Because I think
yeah,
that the COVID classes themselves, the retention has been pretty good.
yeah,
It feels like for some reason that family bond, and that kind of that that bond that is made in the locker room. I don't know what it is with COVID, whether it was having a like opponent for those years, whatever it is, but it does feel like those numbers, the retention numbers, have been higher through those years, and yeah, I think those classes are going to be a little bit bigger here over the next few.
yeah. Let's jump to volleyball. You refereeing volleyball or anything this weekend?
No, I'm not.
Good. 'Cause
Yeah,
I know
that
where you're going to be.
that Frontier tournament was as everything you'd expect. A
Yeah,
little crazy. The Western ladies came out and put together a couple of big games, and made that conference tournament very, very interesting.
yeah, yeah. It did, and it's we talk about how tough football is and how tough it is to get into the playoffs. Uh, Volleyball's not much easier in the Frontier
No,
Conference. It's
no, it's not.
we beat up each other up pretty good in volleyball as well. Um, and I think we're very fortunate to get two teams in the playoffs, and of course Tech gets the host, and Rockies on the road. I'm not sure. I think they go to Iowa someplace. I'm not sure.
Okay,
I
gotcha.
should know. I should know that probably.
Well, and it's big, and it's situations they're both familiar with. Hopefully, Coach Solomon and Tech will be able to shake that off, and just kind of get back after it, and try and take care of business at home. You fall from 15 to 17 in the national rankings. You win that match at home, and then you'll head to the final site. But
Yeah,
um, that part, as far as the leadership, as far as the ladies go, I feel confident with Tech and with Rocky. This is not a situation there that's new to them. There's going to be pressure, but it's pressure they both handled before, and certainly wish them both the best of luck to advance through that play-in game, and get to the final site.
yeah. Those playing games are kind of fun.
Yeah, they are, and there's pressure. I mean,
Yeah,
it doesn't matter if you're at home, you're on the road. And it might be easier to go on the road in some facets, because if you're at home, you've got your home crowd, which certainly
distraction.
helps. But there's expectations there. If you're hosting, you're kind of expected to beat up on the team in advance. So I think the pressure is really high to host those matches, and I'm certainly looking forward to that one coming up Saturday night for Tech.
Yeah, yeah. I think you hit the nail on the head. I think both those teams are, they're both familiar with postseason play. They both been there, and
Yeah.
I just think that I think they have a tremendous chance of both of them coming out of here with a win on this opening round. I hope so.
I agree, and to use like Western as an example, Western's gotten some great
Yeah,
wins this year. You know, if Western goes on and wins it, and then they go on the road, um, there's different energy. There's a
yeah,
different pressure on them due to the fact that they have not been there in a while. So, you know, I think that does benefit both Tech and Rocky in ways, and it might hurt Tech a little bit in ways as well, where that pressure to move on with the home match, it could be hard to deal with.
yeah. Well, I got to do a basketball game tonight, Mr. Panisco. I got a phone call because I thought it was tomorrow. So good
Well, at
thing
least
they
you got the
called.
phone call.
Good thing they called me and remind me.
Yeah, that's a bonus.
Well, how was Disneyland?
It was good.
Good,
Love it. Yep,
good.
I love it. It was good to get away from the fam, but um, certainly looking forward to getting back. And you know, you wish Carol the best of luck on the road. I know I'm going to get a lot of heck for saying that, but you wish Carol the
Yeah,
best of luck on the road. And same goes with Rocky volleyball. You know, the Tech ladies hosting on
yeah,
Saturday night, and then everybody's. You know, basketball season is rolling. So it's going to be exciting. We're only a couple weeks away from Frontier games, so um, you know that there's that pressure is starting to mount as well.
yeah. I will be at Tech on December 1.
Okay, there you go, just like that.
Yeah, just like that.
So I guess
Yeah,
that means I'll be at Tech on December 1.
you better be. No, yeah, it's jumping fast, and it's jumping the basketball. Our teams have played some pretty good competition, I think, in preseason this year.
I
A
doesn't it
little
feel
bit.
like that? Doesn't it feel like that has been? I feel like Carol has led the charge in that for years on the women's side
Yeah.
as far as playing really good opponents. But doesn't it feel like they've kind of latched onto the bandwagon of volleyball and gone, well, hold on a second. You know,
Oh yeah.
volleyball gets out in front of Raiders. They play hard opponents,
Yeah.
and maybe even like a long weekend tournament where you're getting a couple of games against good teams. It feels like basketball has followed that mold here over the last 5-6 years, and it really has paid dividends. In my opinion, especially on the women's side.
Yeah. Yeah. And Lori Kelly is kind of the one that started that in volleyball. She said right from the get go, she says, we gotta get out of Montana. We gotta go to California. We gotta go to Iowa. We gotta go Oklahoma or wherever they went. But we have to do that to, as you say, get out in front of the Raiders and prove themselves
Yeah,
to the other people, the other teams in the nation, because I don't know what it is about Montana. People just don't want to come up here and play us.
it's strange, especially in basketball season. It's so nice.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, don't they want to get beat?
What was the? Is it Southwest, the Florida team that came through the last couple of years? And they were great about it. I mean, they were like, this is the first time a lot of our girls had even seen snow, and it was awful cold.
Oh
I mean,
yeah,
it was just awful, awful cold. But you have to love those teams that are willing to come up, do home and aways or come to these tournaments, and it benefits them as well. But granted, going from sea level to over 5,000 feet and from 80 degrees to maybe 30 below, it's a little bit of a culture shock, but it's beneficial to everybody involved.
yeah. It is. Yeah, yeah. I can remember, and you were involved in a lot of the national tournament stuff, doing play-by-play, but it was kind of amazing how many of those girls. That's the first time they'd ever seen snow.
Yeah,
And they loved it. They were out there. The
yeah,
coaches were having heart attacks. Their players were out there sliding down the hill at the Metro in the snowbank.
yeah, and they had a ball. I mean,
Oh, they
it's
loved it. Yeah,
we forget that it's an experience for those student athletes a lot of times. There's more to it than wins and losses sometimes, and
yeah,
there's these life-changing moments, and those are things that a lot of those players will take with them for life, and hopefully that's the same with Arizona Christian joining us, not only for them but us going down there. I mean, that's a new
oh yeah,
environment for us,
yeah.
and that's exciting. I think that's. I still remember my first trip to Southern Oregon, I think all that goes. You have those memories and all of that fits together into why we do what we do, and why the schools work as hard as they do to get the opponents they do, and to make the Frontier Conference as good as it is.
Yeah, it is, and I just hope it continues. It's
Yep.
just it's so much fun, and I think we're both very lucky and very privileged to be around the student athletes. Um,
Yep.
they say you can't teach an old dog new tricks, but I've learned a lot from those kids.
I have. Yep. And continually do.
Here.
I mean, and
Yeah.
the same, like, when we talk to the different ADs and different coaches, man, we learn a lot, and it's fun. It's a great process to be a part of, and one that we're awfully lucky to be a part of.
Well, Paul, why don't you wrap us up for the day? And I got to go do a basketball game.
You do that. I'm going to go write something. For Bob Ritterod, I'm Paul Panisco. Thanks for joining us for the Montana Sportscast podcast. And until next time, take care.